Hi, health teachers. I started teaching in 2003. Within my first year of teaching middle school health, a local news story caught my attention. A 16-year-old had stolen his uncle's car and, while attempting to drive four other teens home under the influence of alcohol and marijuana, lost control of the vehicle, killing two passengers, both 16-year-old girls who weren't wearing their seatbelts. In addition to the driver's arrest, the news reported that both of his parents faced charges for allowing teens to drink and smoke at their house, sometimes even supplying the alcohol. I used the story in class to teach BAC, DWI, DUI, social hosting laws, seatbelt use, and of course, decision making. In 2017, I returned to the classroom after taking 7 years off to raise my own children. As I prepared to teach this lesson, I looked up the news story to make sure I remembered the details. My previous colleague had let me know there had been some recent developments. I learned that one of the parents had the charges dropped, while the other was convicted, and that their relationship had been strained as the couple separated. The father attempted to shoot the mother at an apartment party, missing and instead striking another party guest. He fled the scene, calling a family member claiming he was going to take his own life. His body was found days later. He had died by suicide. The driver, now in his mid-20s, had recently broke parole and was facing additional charges for attempting to smuggle drugs into jail. The story was hard to believe, but represented a chain of events, the reality that our decisions can impact us for a lifetime. In addition to what I previously taught during this lesson, I now plan to add gun safety and suicide prevention. Prior to reading the story with students, I asked them to complete a timeline. It was divided into several different age groups. Students had to write one thing they would like to do, see, be, or achieve at each age group. I asked them to use Post-its to post their responses on a large class timeline on my board. Rather than read the story from start to finish, I broke the story up, sharing the most recent event first. I asked my students to be crime scene investigators and to guess what could have caused the tragedy. After each series of guesses, I revealed yet another part of the story until students could see how all the pieces fit together. Students identified several decisions that, if made differently, could have easily prevented tragic outcomes. Had the girls chosen to wear seatbelts? Had the driver opted not to drive under the influence? If no one had used drugs and alcohol at the party, and if the parents hadn't allowed it, everyone's life would be different. How different? We looked back at the timeline we created with students' goals for the future. We thought about each person in the story and how their lives were impacted. We removed any Post-it that could no longer be accomplished because of untimely death or imprisonment. Our now barren timeline was the perfect visual. Our decisions can change our lives. Rather than finish on a somber note, I asked students what decisions they could make that would give them the best chance of achieving their goals. For each healthy decision they identified, I returned a goal to the timeline, restoring it to its original form. Your decisions can steer you on a path to your goals as long as you make them wisely. It was in this way that I was able to build students' motivation to use a thoughtful decision-making process. So how can you recreate this experience in your classroom? Check your local news outlets and local newspapers for stories involving high school students, DWIs, social hosting, or drug-related incidents. Stories that happened several years ago or in a neighboring town work best. This helps create a little separation between the students and the story. Ask your students what they want to be, see, do, and achieve at different age ranges. Then create a class timeline. Deconstruct the story into a sequence of events. This will allow your students to reconstruct it, uncovering how each decision is connected. Having built student motivation, the stage is now set to teach a thoughtful decision-making process. To see my full lesson, check out the link in the description. Have a great day.